Hi guys, welcome to this session, which is going to be the first of this new school year. And I'm going to begin with a fairly simple exercise, but we're going to build it into some more complex stuff over the rest of the term. And it's going to be working in pen and ink. So I've got a quill pen here. So just a nib attached to a kind of variable or versatile holder. And it's something I've been doing a bit over the summer holidays, so I thought it might be an interesting thing to kind of start with, and we can develop as we go. So we started with a super simple little object to work from here. So this is just a tiny little dried leaf, which makes a kind of quite nice abstract shape. And we're going to be doing a fairly simple, fairly kind of notan-like, so quite sort of bold pattern of light and dark working from this leaf. And I'm just going to be working right next to it so you can sort of see how I'm approaching it. The ink I'm using, you can use any type of ink, so India ink or Chinese ink. I've got some of this German Zeichen by Rohrer and Klinger, which has been a nice one, a nice kind of deep colour that it gets. But yeah, this is applicable for any kind of ink that you want to use. So I'm just dipping the pen into the ink so you can sort of see, got a little bit built up now, weld at that tip. And I'm going to begin just with some little kind of notes, little notations for where I'm going to start developing the sort of height of the leaf, so you can sort of see across there up at the top of the leaf. And then sort of down a little bit to the side, we'll pop the base of its stem in. And it's going to be a fairly sort of sketchy approach that I take with this one. Not as necessarily as refined as we sometimes are on these lessons. And if it's not an exact copy, I'm not too fussed as well. You notice I'm not actually working with any kind of pencil to start with, so if there are any errors in terms of shapes, I'm just going to work with them. Something like this is obviously a lot more forgiving in that regard than, say, a portrait, or if we're trying to get a likeness or something like that, because this leaf could be doing all sorts of things, really. But kind of working from that highest point and now this lowest point, I'm starting to get the outline of it in. I also want a little bit of a note just for kind of what's going on. I think I've just run out of ink now, so I'm going to pick a little bit more up. So there, I've kind of connected it all up now. The shadow I'm going to do later, so I'm going to focus initially just on this leaf form. And now I just want to start putting some little notes here and there for where the shadows are in the leaf. You can see it's a fairly kind of strongly lit little object. I'm going to be doing a little bit of hatching, so I'm kind of starting that now, just these sort of sketchier, thinner lines that I'm starting with. We'll be looking at some kind of more complex styles of hatching in later sessions. So I've sort of got the shadows mapped in now, so I'm going to starting to hatch them. So rather than kind of uniformly hatching or kind of sketching in like I maybe would sometimes do in pencil, I'm trying to make my lines kind of move in a direction that follows the form. So we've got some little sort of curves going up there. So a little bit of cross hatching there just to start to build the depth of it. And also pushing up a little bit into what we call the lights of the leaf. I'm going to start now hatching out a little bit of a shadow for it as well. That's going to be a little bit softer, so I'm not using outlines, I'm just going to kind of gradually And I'm probably going to need to go in and just reinforce a little bit the darks in the leaf, because something that's quite important is just that we get a sense of the leaf kind of popping out against the shadow background. Otherwise it becomes a little bit too much of a mess. So now going in just to deepen some of these darkest bits, to get a little bit more pop to the whole leaf. Also starting just to put some of these kind of little ripple vein forms into the leaf as well. But I don't want to overdo it too much in the lightest parts. Because we still want it to kind of pop out those light bits. So if I was to over model them, they wouldn't necessarily quite work so well. I just keep doing a few more fine lines just across this lower shadow. So I'm just going to use a few little dots here and there just to catch the kind of dimpled texture of the leaf. And the dot's going to be a bit more apparent down in the halftones. Yeah, that's going to be pretty much it, I think, for this session. So it just gives you an idea of how the pen feels. In terms of mark making, I can kind of go through different marks that I use. So nib like this, we've got kind of, if I work on the side, we've got these very thin lines. If I press a little bit harder, I can get some thinner lines. If I use the tip of the nib and spread out, you can see we get these kind of bigger bleeds, which is what I use a little bit down here. Can do the same thing building in to more of a bleed. And different pen nibs will work differently, and different papers will react as well. You can see the pressure just increases how much ink we can draw. Trying to get it to work, but it's a bit trickier with this working from this angle, so usually you'd be working kind of directly over so the ink would come out in that sort of direction. Sometimes you can get kind of flicks as well, but we'll be looking into different little techniques in later sessions. You sort of get the idea just to get you guys familiar with this type of medium. We'll be looking at lots of different ways that you can mess around with it in future sessions. So as always, I recommend you subscribe to the OCAD channel just to kind of keep up to date with what's going on. If you're new to it, you can have a look back through all of our archives of lessons. But otherwise, that's it for today, and I'll see you guys next week with a new session.